service will end, so that's why we don't come.
Yeah. It's nice of them to set me a table with a white tablecloth.
Set you a table for your enemies.
Well, I guess we can start because there are probably a couple of people watching us also, so we won't let them wait. So we ended with the end of Psukei de Zimra. So I just want to go to page 147. 147. So we were saying that we're about to end Psukei de Zimra. That means the psalm. You remember that's all based on ancient temple service. Assume that people want to get into the temple, they get around, they hear the songs, they get themselves ready, and now they want to get into the courtyard, right? Sort of the first stage of entering the temple, and that's where the service of the Shema will begin. So either you can think of it as the physical courtyard or the spiritual courtyard. But I just want to point out to you that there's a bit of a confusion. That's why I want you to go to 147 with the Shochanad. It's, at that point, usually a different prayer leader take place, right? So if you have a Cantor, the Cantor will take over. However, this is not the end of Psukei de Zimra. And so the question is why, why the Cantor takes over there and not at the end of Psukei de Zimra? And it's a good question. You see that there's a little red arrow on Shochanad, and they say on Shabbat the leader begins here. There's no rule about it. It's not written, I think, in the Talmud or anywhere. I think it's just a custom that the Cantor wants to be there a little bit before the beginning of the Shema with the Baruch Hu and all of that, just so has his great voice, and then people could appreciate him, the Cantor, and they can perform a little bit. And so he starts at Shochanad, but Psukei de Zimra continue until the next page. And what the top of the page, 148, starts with Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu. This is the last blessing of Psukei de Zimra. We used to stand up for that. With the new rabbi, he doesn't do that because, again, it's a different custom.
Sorry, can we get a page number?
148. 148. Yes, yes. When I do it, of course, whenever there's joy melody to one of the
What do you
so-
do besides Bayana and Shavina?
Nishmat Kol Chai, and during the Amidah. ממקומך מלכנו. That's a joy. I used to do before I learned that. ממקומך, I can't even remember right now. But we used to do something different. So, yeah, that's joy. And you see that the end of the first paragraph on page 148, it ends with, with a blessing, Baruch Ata Hashem, El Melech Gadol B'Tishbachot. That means you are a great king for praises, Tishbachot. El Audaot, the God of thanksgiving, Adon Niflaot, master of wonders. Habocher b'shirei zimra, the one who chooses the song of praises. So we can summarizing now the Psukei de Zimra, because until now we have all these psalms. Melech al chai olamim, a king who lives forever. And now we sang Chatzi Kaddish. You remember when we talk about the Kaddish, Chatzi Kaddish, and the subsection. So we just ended the Psukei de Zimra and we say Chatzi Kaddish. And usually what happens with this Chatzi Kaddish is that unlike, Kaddish Shalem, that usually we said kind of simple melody, the Chatzi Kaddish usually takes the melody of what comes next. It's a bit more elaborate. So, and especially it's more apparent during high holidays. So, for example, after we finish the Torah reading for high holidays and everything, and we are ready to go to start the Musaf. So we sing Chatzi Kaddish, which is seemingly is the beginning of Musaf, but no, it's the end of what came before. But the melody already takes the kind of the tone of what's come after. So, for example, for the Musaf, for Rosh Hashanah, and for Kippur, Yid Kadash, Yid Kadash, Kadash Me'irava. It's already get you into that mode. But here it's a bit more simple, and we are done with Psukei de Zimra, and we get into the Shema service. So we are now on page 149, the beginning of the Shema service. The title is the Shema and Its Blessings. But apparently the Shema, because it's such a central thing in Jewish worship, they couldn't just say the Shema. They had to do preparation before, so they said blessings before, and they do some blessing after. Now remember, blessing can be long and it can be very short. So as we're going to see in a minute, the blessing before the Shema can be very long. Okay, but we start with the Baruch Hu. What's the Baruch Hu? It's typically known as call for prayers. You can imagine that the high priest or a priest would come out and would say, Baruch Hu et Hashem Vorach. And everybody will respond, Baruch Hashem Vorach L'olam Va'ed. That's what we do. We stand, and that's what we do. And we start with the blessing. Before we say the Shema, there are going to be two blessings. After we say the Shema, there are going to be one blessing for Shacharit and 2 blessings for the evening prayer for Ma'ariv. For evening prayer, we add a special prayer which is called Hashkivenu. That means when we ask God to guard us, as if during the night we deposit our soul, in His hands, and then we pray for Him to return the soul to us when we get up. But that's only in the evening. By the way, we say the Shema, the whole Shema service, twice a day only, not 3 times a day, because it is said, "B'shochbecha u'v'kumecha," right? When you talk about this, "V'ahavta et Adonai," this phrase, "V'shochbecha," when you lay down and when you get up. So we don't say it on the Mincha service. So the Mincha service does not start with the whole Shema service, but it goes, there's one psalm, like Ashrei, and then goes straight to the Amidah. But morning and evening, you say the whole Shema service. The first blessing is called the blessing of Yotzer. It's even start like that, and then we're going to end like this. So the top of page 150, Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvore choshech, Oseh shalom uvore et hakol. Yotzer or means creates light. Uvore choshech. Now here there can be a little bit of a debate, because you say, and creates darkness. Now one can argue darkness is the lack of light. So why does God has to actually create darkness, right? It'll be there automatically if there's no light. But that's what it says. So I get everything's in the hands of God. So Yotzer or uvore choshech, Oseh shalom, the one who makes peace and creates everything, uvore et hakol. Now the whole first blessing of Yotzer, the main theme there is talking about Yotzer HaMeorot, the one who creates the sun and the moon, which are the Meorot, the sources of light, the sun in the day, the moon at night. And in the evening, by the way, we do it differently. We say the Ma'ariv Aravim. This is the first blessing before the Shema, the one who brings the evenings, because we are in a different time of day. So now talks about the sun mostly, because it's morning. And for example, on page 151, there's a whole piyut, the whole thing that we sing oftentimes very happily, El Adon. And if you go to the beginning of the 3rd paragraph, Tovim meorot shebara Eloheinu, Yetzaram b'da'at b'vina v'askel. Good are those meorot, or source of light that God created. Why was it so important to, you think, to say the whole blessing, the whole thing about the sun? Yeah, it is a fact that, it's morning, that we appreciate the sun that comes every day, but maybe there's something beyond that. Yes, ma'am. Of course.
So sun was crucial to survival.
Yes.
Being able to do anything that you might choose to do.
Right. Any other thoughts? Remember, yes, sir.
Well, this is kind of silly, it's off topic, but I read somewhere that the reason why we face east is not so much because that's where Jerusalem is, because even in Jerusalem they face east. But it comes back, it's really primordial, because that's when the sun rises.
Possible? Yeah?
Before Judaism, there were sun worshippers.
Oh,
Worship Ra.
Okay, so here's the thing. All right. Remember that the Israelites came from Egypt. Who is the main god of Egypt? The sun god. Now, if you're a person who live in those days and you kind of are fearful of all the natural phenomena, sun, everything to you looks like godly, beyond you, you have to afraid of it and worry that maybe the sun will not come the next day and all of that. But here, especially in this poem, the emphasis was that God created the sun. So don't be fooled. Don't worship the sun as God. The sun is one of God's instruments. God's created the sun. It's a tovim meorot shebara Eloheinu. Good are this source of light that God created. And then that's kind of a poem, how these messengers or agents of God, they're coming out from the east, they're very happy. The next paragraph, 1, 2, 3. The fourth paragraph, Meleim ziv umfikim noga, they're full of splendor, and there's just a beautiful throughout the world. Smechim betzetam, they're happy as they're coming out from the east. Vesasim bevoam, and they're happy when they return down to the west. But osim be'ima retzon konam, they are doing only with awe the will of the Creator. Okay, so remember, people, the sun is wonder, but it's all God's creation. And then we continue, and on page 153, we come to an interesting section. If you look at in the middle of the page, you see things that you usually see during the Kedusha, with the Amida, right? The whole section about the angels, who, like one, say, holy, 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 kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Where is this from, by the way? Anybody remembers? This is from Isaiah vision. That he sees this awesome vision with all the angels, and they sort of culminate that they all becomes like one, and they say holy, holy, holy. And then the second part, which starts with a little arrow, after kadosh, 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 ve'ofanim v'chayot hakodesh, this heavenly creature, which is called Ophanim, Chayot HaKodesh, Srafim, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, Baruch כבוד אדוני ממקומו. Blessed the presence of God from its place. Where is this from? Ezekiel. Ezekiel had the same, not the same exactly, but similar vision with all these angels, and this time they don't say Kadosh Kadosh, but they say Baruch Kvod Adonai Mimkomo. And here's something interesting. It says V'ofanim v'chayot HaKodesh. This is two types of heavenly creature. One is called Ophanim. Ophan in Hebrew means wheel, so they somehow, people think that these creatures have some kind of wheels on them. Chayot HaKodesh, the holy, Chaya means animal or creature. Chayot HaKodesh, the holy creature. Bera'ash gadol, with big noise, big sound. Mitnas'im lumat srafim. That means that overcome or beyond or above mitnasim, לעומת srafim, against srafim. This is another type of heavenly creature. srafim we usually know as angels, like a messenger. So what it's all about? Ophanim וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מתנשאים לעומת srafim, against the srafim. And לעומתם, and against them, they praise and say, Baruch kavod Adonai ממקומו. They praise God and they say, blessed the presence of God. It's come from Ezekiel, so we're not sure exactly what he meant. However, if you remember the scene of Jacob ladder, right? It talks about angels and malachim olim veyordim, right? Go up and go down. What does it mean? It can mean many things. To me, it means those who goes up are the angels, or maybe good thoughts, that aim at God. That means their role is to unify. They come from the many to the one, so they slowly unify until they come to the one. The seraphim is the one maybe that goes down, that actually through them the world of diversity, what we see around us, is revealed. But the way that is put here, as if those, the Ophanim v'chod HaKodesh as if they have the last word, because they are the most important, because they are the one who said, Baruch kavod Adonai ממקומו. Blessed. He said, okay, seraphim, you can go down, you can create the world, but remember, it's all should be infused with the presence of God, right? And so that's what I found interesting. And then it comes to the end of the page to the last kind of phrase, Or Chadash, new light, al Tzion Tahir, you will shine upon Zion, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. So, what does that mean, new light? And then he said, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, and may we all merit this light. Well, it could be either this is a new day, the new sign, and the sun is rising, maybe this is a new light, or you know about the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light. Do you know anything about it? This kind of in Jewish discourse, there's about the Or Ganuz. Ganuz means hidden. And you know what happened? On the first day of creation, what happened? Bereshit, bara Elohim, right? את השמיים ואת הארץ, והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני תהום. And there was a dark. And then God says, what did he say? Yehi or, let there be light. And there was light. However, the sun and the moon was created much later, on the fourth day, I believe. So what was this light? So this light, as they're saying, this is light that God created, that was actually the original light, the light of God himself, the presence of God. But then, as the world appeared, God concealed this light to be given as a gift to the righteous, So maybe that's why they saying here, ונזכה כולנו מהרה, let's all merit this light. Let's us all be like righteous people, like tzaddikim, so we can bathe in this godly light. And then the blessing, the final blessing of the whole thing, Baruch Ata Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. That's the last line on page 153. Blessed are you, God, who creates the source of light. the question is, one of the questions, why this portion of the Kedusha that would appear later as the core of the Amidah, why is it here? It has a special name. It's called Kedusha de Yotzer. That's like in Aramaic, de Yotzer is like of Yotzer. That means the Kedusha of Yotzer. Yotzer is the name of the blessing because it's a Yotzer Amerot. So the whole blessing is called Yotzer. Why there's a Kedusha there? There's no explanation. So one can just think about why it's so important to put Kedusha right there. And what is the element of Kedusha? As we said, there's the Isaiah vision, which is revelation, experience, right? It's not Torah, it's not arguing, there's no rabbi said this, one rabbi said that, one rabbi said this. This is pure experience of the prophet, of the presence of God and the creation of the world. And the other one is more a similar vision, again, experience of Ezekiel.
It's just funny to me in a way that, like these are the prayers of the angels, right? Like it's almost like they're separate beings that are also created by God that have gratitude to God, and we are saying their prayers for them. And it's just funny because Nephilim are created by God too, or are an offset of angels, and we don't say their prayers to God. So, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting that we are not angels, but we're acknowledging that they're created by God, and we're saying their prayers for them.
Okay, so let's pause for a moment. Yeah.
But on the other hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like what Lawrence Kushner says in the footnote here. He's talking about angels also being messengers, holy messengers. And he says, I do not know how many times in one's life one is also a messenger, but for everyone it is at least once.
Interesting. Beautiful. However, I want to take it even one level higher. Because what are angels? Are we to accept that there's some creatures between us and God, some kind of intermediary? I mean, is this our experience, really, our experience, that there's some separate entities?
It's all over the Torah.
It's all over the Torah, but what does it mean? So it has to mean something, because it's all over the Torah. So, again, every person can deal with it and accept or work up an explanation that fits his own or her, understanding and spiritual path. So all what I can do is tell you what it means to me, for me. And so I think about an angel. Angel supposed to be an entity, but no body. It's not a physical entity, right? They don't have a body that we can. Sometimes people can see angels, but they can see angels in the same way that people see, mirage. That doesn't automatically mean if they see it, that actually there's a physical presence there. So what's in our experience as human being? What are those things that have no physicality, but we know that they exist? What are they? To my way of thinking, these are our thoughts. So I can send good thoughts that will go up. There will be those angels that go up and slowly bring my soul up. And I sometimes can get not very good thoughts. That thoughts that bring me down and tie me down into the physicality of this world. When I think about angels, that could be messenger from God. So I could think of myself, if I have a good thought, a pure thought, that's a message from God. That's a messenger, that's a message. So that's how I walk the thing. That's how when I read it about the angel, the Ophanim, Chayot HaKodesh, all of that makes sense to me. And therefore I can continue. I don't have to stop during the prayer and say, wait a minute. I don't, No, it's okay. I understand it. For me, I understand it. I can go on. I can just. So that was the first. So the question was, why do we have the Kedusha here? So we talked about the fact that was vision, that was pure experience, that was like a revelation. Now, we are going soon to say the Shema. And the Shema, in a way, is a revelation. If you say it full-heartedly, while you say it, you start to feel the oneness of God. And that's revelation. And that can be a revelation that come now, it can be the next 5 minutes, any time. It doesn't have to be once a year or once a prayer. So in order to prepare us for that revelation, and we're going to talk about the Shema itself in a minute, we want to bring evidence from our history, situation when people had this revelation. So, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and you see in the full Kedusha, when we do it during the Amidah, they also bring this scene from the Dead Sea. When the people said, Adonai imloch l'olam va'ed, right? When God will rule forever and ever. That means that they suddenly saw. Again, there's no like comparative knowledge, there are no books here. They saw, they experienced it. And that's, even though they later, they fail to carry it all the time with them, so they fall and they complain and they kvetch and all of that, but they can go back to it. There's a source to go back to and hold on to. Second blessing before the Shema is the blessing of love. So not only that we talk about pure experience, but we also talk about love that as a vehicle towards God. And of course, you remember that in the Kabbalah, where there's kind of ways to go to sort of different stages, and one side is through love, through chesed. That's where Abraham is. So Abraham, when you see the name Abraham, think about love, because Abraham was called by God, Avraham Ohavi, the one who loves me. So, that's a good way to reach God, through love. It's quick, You just, if you have it, it's there. You don't have to go to stages and go straight. And so at the beginning of the blessing is Ahava Rabbah on the top of page 154. Great love. You loved us, our God. What do you mean that God loves us? It means that if you understand, if you fully in it, we love God. I mean, God returned to us only what we give him. See? If we love God, then God loves us. It's not that, God loves you, you're okay. No, if you commit bad acts or you have bad thoughts, God doesn't love you because you don't love God. Because if you love God, you will not have this bad action and bad thoughts. So God is almost like a mirror, He reflects back on you what you give Him. So, אהבה רבה, great love, and mercy, חמלה גדולה ויתרה. And then, second paragraph, usually sing, please light our eyes in your Torah and adhere our hearts into your commandment. And here is this line that I really love, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, and unify our heart, make all our thoughts and feelings all into one focus, one love. יחד לבבינו לאהבה, to love, and to יראה, to love and not fear really, but it's a fear mixed with awe. So that's yirah, your name. So we will not, so if we do that, there won't be any shame on us. ולא נבוש לעולם ועד. And then the last paragraph, we gather all of our, at the four corners of our tzitziot, of our talit. This is the custom because we said, "V'avi'enu l'shalom," and bring us in peace for four corners of the earth. "V'tulichenu komimiyut le'artzenu," and you walk us upright to our land. If you want to think about this as the physical land, then you'll be okay with the fact that here, oftentimes when we come to this, we actually use it with the melody of a tikva. I don't like it so much because you don't mix. I don't think you this is one thing, and prayer, for your own soul is something else. And so to mix that kind of suddenly, so I don't usually.
Don't mix religion with politics.
So yes, okay, yeah, separation of state and church. So if you want to think about spiritually, gather all of your thoughts from wherever they go, from four corners of the world, because you're busy in this world. You have to go to work, you have to do this, you have many tasks. Pause, bring everything back. And so the land is where you rise to the first, actually the last sphera, the last level, the sphera of Malchut, from which this is the gate, this is the opening to the unity with God. So this is the land, when I think about the land of Israel in spiritual terms, I think about that. ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון. You can now spend 2 hours of the phrase ובנו בחרת, because you chose us among all the people and all languages. And we say that's also, when you come up for Aliyah, right? The same idea. אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, we say, right? If you stand at that moment there, and your heart filled with love towards God, that means that you chose God at that moment. And because you chose God, God chose you. The same with love, It's not automatic. You cannot do bad acts and say, oh no, but we are chosen. then that they give a license to do all kind of evil. No? The meaning of Uvanu Bacharata, you chose us, means that we really, thoroughly, wholeheartedly chose to focus on God. Ve'keravtanu leshimcha gadol, and you bring us close to your holy name. You remember that we talk about the name, Yud Hei Vav Hei, the great name, Shimcha Gadol, Sela, Be'emet. Lehodot lecha, to thank you, ve'leyachedcha be'ahava. What do you mean, leyachedcha be'ahava? What's the word leyached? Come from the word echad, or achdut. Echad means one, achdut means unity. So, leyachedcha be'ahava, to unify you with love. That's what I said earlier, that to use love to reach God, it's, if you can do it, is the most, I think, the most satisfactory and the easiest in a way. Ve'liachetcha be'ava, and then come the blessing. Blessed are you, Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'amo Yisrael be'ava, who is choosing, no, actually you, who are choosing the people of Israel with love. Okay, so we talked about that. We know what it means that God chooses his people with love. If we adopt love and compassion, that's what God loves us. So, yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we turn the page, it says, some gather their tzitzis before reciting this line.
Yeah.
How much of a line before you can let go of the tzitzis?
Okay, so that's, the custom is, after you said the Shema, and we said all these 3 paragraphs, ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, and then והיה אם שמות ישמעו, and then ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, and all of that. When you finish that, and you come to page 157, here it doesn't say that, but in Orthodox Sidurim, if you have like a art score, you'll see that, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the 5th line from the top, on page 157, there's the first word is la'ad. You see that? The first word of the line. La'ad. Lamed Ain Daled. La'ad. It's forever. There'll be an asterisk there. It's the 5th. Yeah, I'm sorry, from the top. In Orthodox Sidurim, they'll tell you at this point, kiss the tzitziot and let go. Okay? So, because he doesn't tell you when to let go, but this is the tradition. So from that moment that we gather, all the way there. All right. And so now you're ready to say the Shema. We brought in our mind all these experiences, and we try to feel the love and all of that. And now we say the Shema. The Shema is a very interesting thing. This is, of course, a quotation from the Torah, right? Shema Yisrael Eloheinu Echad. What does it mean? What the deep meaning? Of course, the literal meaning, listen or hear, O Israel, Yud Hei Vav Hei, Hashem is our God, Hashem Echad, one. So, that's the literal meaning. But if it's so, what's so, why it is so central? What's so important about it? So, let's talk about one aspect. In the rabbinical world, they say that the meaning of this is is Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. When you say that, you receive the yoke of heavenly kingdom. That's the translation of the Hebrew phrase Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim. Always, I couldn't say hate it because it's written, it's the rabbis, but I don't like it. Why? We talk about love, that you reach it with love, with experience. So you know what yoke is. Have you seen all the, I don't know, all movies or something when farmers in, I don't know, Middle East or used to plow the land with oxes? So they put a big heavy piece of wood over the neck, over the back of the neck. Yoke, yeah. That's the ol. Ol means yoke. And the poor animals kind of bow their head and pull. That's the image that you feel when you say the Shema. You know, it doesn't sit well with me when I hear that this is the, you know, I want to see something much more, much higher there. What do I see there? I see in this one, okay, before I say that, it's very ancient, it's early in the Torah, and for those of us who experience some type of meditations or was exposed to some Eastern philosophies and religion, you know that there's mantras, that you say mantra to kind of focus you to, and you repeat it. The Shema Yisrael has the rhythm of a mantra. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. It's really, if you know some mantras, you may see that it's the same rhythm. And who knows? Because remember, in the old days, there was no formal, oral kind of written prayers, right? People just did, you know. They sang, they do sacrifice, and maybe for personal prayer that was used as a mantra. So what the role usually of mantra is to help you to kind of to calm your mind, you know, to let you most of your thoughts go on, and you kind of slowly get yourself focused and point to wherever you want to go. So it is sort of mantra, but also in this one sentence, the way that I like to see it is that you see the whole spiritual progress of a person who is trying to, you know, who walk the spiritual path. Why? It started Shema Yisrael, listen, hear, focus, right? This is how you begin. This is, you enter the world, if you want to think about Kabbalistic images, the world of the Sefirot, the first chamber. You know, before the Kabbalah was as such, there was much more ancient literature. This is called Sifrut Heichalot. That means literature of chambers, and the rabbis who wrote this saw in their imagination 4 big chambers that you have to walk into one, into another. So either you can go up, you can go inwards, so that outside, and then in 7th stage into reaching the Holy of Holies. But you have to begin somewhere. So the outer level is the Shema. Focus. Here we go. Adonai Eloheinu. Where are we going? Here we are at the beginning. There is a place that you want to go, where God is, or the presence of God, or love is. So here we are, He is God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. And we start the journey. and we work hard, and we purified our heart with love, with devotion, we studied Torah, and then we suddenly approach the central chamber, which is called Tiferet, where the name Yud Hey Vav Hey, the holy name, is associated with. And then we are almost, we cannot see anything else because we're already there in the presence of God. So that this is almost it. However, not completely. Because when we come to this name, Yud Hey Vav Hey, we still have some sense of duality. Because if we talk about God, God is great, God is this, we have attributes, and there was still a little bit, even though we are in the presence, but there's still a little bit of us in there also. That little bit of us should also disappear, because we aim at total unity. So, Adonai Eloheinu, that is where we reach. And then we say, Yud Hey Vav Hey, Adonai Echad. Now, most of the people say Adonai Echad, one God. But I say Adonai, comma, and then they say one. Because then you and yourself and your thoughts and everything else become totally one with God. And that's, I think, is the highest level of spirituality. Yeah, it's even beyond that. Dvekut. When you said Dvekut, yes, but the Dvekut is still, there's one thing adhere to another. There is still a bit of duality there. But you want no details, nothing, no you, you stand on the top of the mountain, it is a gorgeous view, you cannot even, it's just, you totally blown up with this experience. Because Chad, it could be one. We don't have two gods, we have only one, okay? Although why it is so important? Why there should be two gods? Maybe God should have a wife with him, it's so lonely up there, no? Why it's so important? Why we said we are monotheistic? This is, only one God. But all the other nations have many gods. Why we feel that we are so much better because we have only one God? Because the word echad doesn't mean only one versus two. It can be also mean one without a second. That means oneness, or achdut in Hebrew, or unity in English. So that can be also the meaning of one, echad. And we said that's kind of the culmination of the blessing that we said before. And then we recite all those three sections, right? We do it silently. ואהבת את השם אלוהיך בכל לבבך, we know that. And then והיה אם שמות ישמעו את מצוותיי. And here's interesting, on top of page 156. And if you listen, obey my commandments, אשר אנוכי, which I, מצווה אתכם, commands you, היום, today. What are the commandments that I command you? לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם ולעובדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם. This is, if you do this mitzvah, maybe you don't need all other mitzvot, because they'll become automatic. If you love God with all your heart, with all of your might, would you do something against His will? If you when you were young and you fell in love with this beautiful lady next to you, and you were so much in love that all what you thinking was her, would you at that moment could even consider, to do something that you think that's against her wishes? I mean, all your being telling to be, what can I do to make her happy? Hold on, let's just shut it down.
Still
So, so this is the mitzvah. It's a Ya'im Shama Tishmu El Mitzvotai. Mitzvotai is in plural. Mitzvot, that means mitzvotai, my mitzvot, says God, which I command you today to love your God and your soul. And then, that's continue to talk about the source of the tefillin, and the tzitzit, the third paragraph. And then comes the last, the blessing which is after the Shema. After we said, when there's a big, at the bottom of the page is the big, in big letters say the word emet. That's the beginning of the last, of the blessing after the Shema. And interestingly enough, if you look at that, you see there's about 4 or 5 times the word emet is in there. Emet, of course, means, truth. And why does emet? What's truth? To me, it's always mean is the true nature of God is, pure unity that we've been talking about, this truth itself. And then we come to the end of page 158. We sing Tzur Yisrael. This is the end of this blessing. Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Bless your God Ga'al Yisrael, who redeemed Israel. So this is the Ga'al Israel. This is the blessing after Shema. And if you, I don't know if you notice sometimes, or you watch some Orthodox people or Hasidim, they whisper the word Ga'al Israel. And they don't want anything else heard before they immediately start the first word of the Amidah. Why do they do it? It's a good question. It is the practice of the Hasidim and the mystics. However, if you look at there's an explanation here. At the bottom, the commentary on the right-hand side, towards the bottom of the page, that it's also it's this idea in the Babylonian Talmud of Masechet Berachot. And said you don't want to have any pause or any interruption between Geulah, redemption, and Tefillah, and the prayer. It can be all kind of explanation. I also, when the rabbi, not necessarily our own rabbi, but it happens in many congregations, when you reach that, God Israel, the rabbi said, now turn to page tadam, this is the Amidah. You shouldn't say a word. You should just slide into that. Because why? Because the Geulah and Tefillah should be slide into each other. Why? The Kabbalistic idea is that Tefillah is the lower sphera, is the Malchut. That's where you start directing your prayers from Malchut, and then as you progress, you can go up. Geulah, the word Geulah is already the beginning of redemption. That's already the sphera or the chamber above that, or inward. That, by the way, is a Kabbalistic idea. So Geulah is associated with the next sphera, which is Yesod. And the whole idea, the whole idea of the Kabbalah is to unify the Sfirot or create a channel between the oneness or the presence of God into the diversity of this world, to allow the goodness, the present, the Shefa, as they call Shefa means abundant, of God's goodness flow right into you. And they always warn you against what they call kitzutz nidiyot, I mean, cutting this flow. Because if you cut the flow, you drop back into the lowest. Because there's no more, goodness that comes to you. It's like a little plant. It's just beginning to grow and depends, totally on the rain, and suddenly somehow you block the rain, and of course this little plant will wither, will die. And so you should do whatever you can not to interrupt, not to cut this flow of godliness. And so the custom is that you just say Ga'al Yisrael silently, and you continue into the silent Amidah. And that's because of that, even though we are finishing the Shema service, there's no Chatzi Kaddish here. Don't interrupt, no Chatzi Kaddish. And you go to the Amidah. Yes?
I've noticed at the last blessing, we say Baruch Atah Adonai and then silence. Don't even finish the Ga'al Yisrael. Go right into the Amidah.
Yeah. Well, people are supposed to, of course, you do whatever you want, but people are supposed to whisper it. Still in a sense, because this is part of the blessing, so you cannot just cut it. So you have to say it, but not say it and then pause and then start. That's Ga'al Yisrael, Baruch Atah. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? You're welcome.
I noticed in this book that when you say via after, like in the art scroll, it puts the vertical marks in it so that you don't mix the words together.
Uh-huh.
They don't do that in this sitter.
No.
It's just form.
Yeah, no, you're right. I know. Again, different customs, different ideas sometimes. Just to show you how kind of different, customs, different idea. After we said the Kedusha with the Amidah, and then this sort of, so in the middle of page 162, there's this section called Yismach Moshe, B'matnat Chelko, 162. That section, and it's also, I read about it, but also it says here on the commentary, it was debated. Even Rashi was against it. Said, no, it should not be there. And some said, yes, it should be there. And they debated it, and Rashi is coming to, what Rashi was, 12th century Rashi? Something like that. Don't remember. And so that's not very ancient. And still, it's, how things appear in the prayer, what words views were debated, and until today. So that's what you're saying, that this, in some Siddurim, they'll add this asterisk, this line, this, that's the different customs. So I hope you had a wonderful July and July 4th weekend. Should be wonderful weather, not too hot. And I don't know whether you guys want to continue in the summer, or you have plans. So if you decide that you want to pause for July and August or something, let the office know, and then before next Wednesday, I'll call the office and see if people decide that they don't want to come, because they maybe want to go out of town, you want to go to the beach, you want to go here or there. It's okay.
Thank you for today.
You're welcome.
Next Wednesday, postpone answer.
Yeah, if there's no objection, if you're here, then we'll do the Amidah. Yeah. Shemona Esrei. Okay. Yeah, welcome.